I have been in progressive media for 20 years now. I have covered heartbreaking stories. I have covered hilarious stories. I have covered important stories. And mostly I have covered some of the dumbest stories that we've ever heard. And I can tell you with almost complete certainty that what I'm about to tell you right now is probably the dumbest story I've ever had to talk about. Because this is the dumbest thing that I have seen in 20 years of progressive media. Here it is. Donald Trump's lawyer, Clifford Robert, sent a letter to Judge Arthur Engoron this week. And it was a very polite letter, right? Clifford Robert has changed his tune. You know, he's not attacking the judge anymore, not accusing him of bias. He's being very nice and sweet to the judge. And he sent the letter and he says, "Hey, Judge, well, let me read it. I don't even want to put words in his mouth. I don't want to paraphrase. Let me read you what Mr. Robert put in his letter to Engoron about the final ruling, the $350 million verdict against his client, Donald Trump. Robert said, "Because the decision ordinarily entails more complicated relief, the instruction contemplates notice to the opponents so that both parties may either agree on a draft or prepare counter proposals to be settled before the court. Defendants therefore request that the court set a return date for the proposed judgment that affords defendants sufficient time to submit a proposed counter-judgment." In other words, even though the final verdict has come down, Donald Trump's lawyer, probably I'm assuming at Donald Trump's request, says, "Let's make him a counteroffer." That's not a thing. That's not a thing that you do with courts. I don't know what the F this lawyer is even talking about. Like, well, you didn't let us make a counteroffer. You don't get to make a counteroffer. This isn't a business transaction. This isn't a deal you're trying to seal. You don't get to go to a judge and be like, all right. You told us we owe $350 million. I hear you. That's a big number, more than we want. So what I'm going to do, Judge, is I'm going to write a number down on this piece of paper here. This is our counteroffer. You go ahead and tell me what you think of that. That's not a thing. You're not buying a car. This is a legal judgment against your client. You don't get to propose a counteroffer. The judgment has been rendered. The judgment has been submitted. It's done, you idiot. You should know that as a lawyer. My God, this is such a bad request from this lawyer that one, I think Engoron should sanction him because this lawyer should know better. And if he doesn't know better, then I think disciplinary hearings and a possible disbarment should be in his future. And I'm not making that up either. That's how ridiculous this letter is. Let us make a counteroffer. Here's the thing. If you wanted to have a counteroffer, you can do that. But you cannot do that once the final judgment has been submitted. You do it in what's called settlement, which Donald Trump likely had the opportunity to do multiple times, both during the investigation and before the trial started, and even during the trial. That's when you approach the other party and say, okay, listen, obviously this thing's not going great for either side. Let's come up with a number. Let's haggle back and forth. We'll come up with a number. We'll accept that and we'll just end the trial. Yes, you can do that. And it happens. Hell, I have seen, the lawyers I work with, they've been trying cases for weeks and weeks and weeks. And even while the jury goes into deliberation, they'll come up with a settlement and end it. As long as that final verdict has not been delivered, you can still come up with a settlement, which is where you can make counteroffers. But once the judgment is entered, there is nothing you can do other than appeal it. And this lawyer should know that. I'm not a lawyer and I know that. So this is the dumbest thing I have ever seen one of Trump's lawyers do. And shockingly enough, it didn't come from Alina Habba. I would expect this from her. I never saw it coming from Clifford Robert, though. He may actually be worse than Alina Habba at this point.